Hello and welcome to another Board Crazy review. My name is D, and today I'm going to be talking about Piece of Pie with
Will. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm Will, and yes, D and I did discuss it, and we both agreed upon pocket shirts.
They're convenient.
We were going to put pocket pies in our pocket shirts.
You get a board game rule book in there.
Look at that.
Oh, well, sort of.
See, now this would have been great if I had a pocket pie. I can you can get a pocket pie in your
Get
pocket.
a pocket pie piece. Boom! Look at this utility.
So, D, before we talk about this sweet board game, you see what I did there?
We're
We're going to send you over to his rules intro. Stop talking over me, guy. We're going to send you over to his rules intro where he explains how the game is played. If you have already seen that intro or you're not interested in that, I'll put a timestamp right down below here. You can go down to the YouTube time bar and click to that time.
Piece of Pie is a game for 2 to 4 players designed by Trevor Benjamin and Brett J. Gilbert and published by Blue Orange Games. In this game, players take slices from communal pies in order to assemble their own while keeping an eye on the desired patterns and flavors. To set up, the decorations card is placed face up near the play area, and one randomly drawn flavor recipe card and pattern recipe card are also chosen and set nearby. Each player will receive one perfect piece card, which is kept hidden from the other players, and then the pie pieces are all shuffled up randomly and then assembled around the starting token. The game is played in clockwise order, starting with the oldest player. On a player's turn, they simply remove a piece from one of the pies in the middle of the play area and add it to their own. The first piece taken from each pie must be the one pointed at by the arrow on the starting token, and all future pieces taken must be adjacent to a previously taken piece. When adding a piece to one's own pie, the reverse applies. There can never be any gaps between pieces. They must always be placed adjacent to other pieces already in the pie. The only slight wrinkle to this is in a 2-player game, which we're doing today, where both players make 2 pies and may start working on their second pie whenever they choose. The game ends once all players' pies are assembled, then the scores are calculated. Each pie earns its player points by matching the criteria shown on the decorations, flavor, and pattern cards. Each player's perfect piece card, meanwhile, earns them 1 additional point for each instance of the shown ingredient in their pie or pies. And, of course, the player who scores the most points wins the game. All right, Will. Piece of pie. This game's a piece of cake.
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
Here we go.
Don't do it.
Don't
do it.
Yeah. Boom. All the components right
See
there.
that, Tom Vassell? Much more efficient way of doing a component drop.
This won't be difficult to clean up at all. Piece of Pie is a game that I would say, if I may be so bold, is very much in the Azul and Sagrada sort of region of board gaming, if you will. It's stripped down.
It's a little bit more free form and stripped down.
It's stripped down. It plays way more quickly than those games, but I feel like it's very similar. I mean, there is pattern. It's all about drafting sort of pieces and trying to set yourself up in a good position while also trying to leave your opponents in a bad position for their own drafting, while also worrying about your own sort of pattern that you're creating in your own personal space. If that makes sense. So I feel like it is similar to those games because of this.
Yes, it has. There are some similarities.
So I feel like that should pretty much off the bat give you a pretty solid idea if this game is for you or not. If you like those games and you think the idea of a quicker one is a good idea, then this might be for you.
And if you like sweets and pastries,
if you want to be hungry after you play a board game,
it just even adds to the appeal.
Yeah.
So we got some cards here, guy. So the cards determine what patterns you use throughout the game, which is interesting. Which means that there's some variability then to how the game plays.
Absolutely. I would say there's actually a good amount, considering. I'm going to show the folks home.
Yes. So for instance, you have this one here, which would be you get points. You get 3 points for having those pieces of pies in those locations, right? I mean, that's essentially what that means. But then there's other ones, different kinds. Like for this one, it's like you get 4 points for having all 4 kinds of pie in your pie, which sounds like heaven to me already.
Strange thing to say, but yeah.
You know, or this one where it's like you get 2 points for pairs of pie. So what I'm saying is there's some variety to not only the types of cards that give you ways to score, but also then there's variety within those cards and how they function. Each individual category,
I think, sure. I feel like you probably could have worded that in a way that made more sense.
It was completely clear what I was trying to say.
I think the main gameplay works well enough. I think it's pretty fun, while not being mindless. I think this game you could kind of play mindlessly if you wanted to, just kind of like randomly pick it and see what happens.
You might end up winning.
But no, I think you can strategize, a fair amount in order to set yourself up while trying to harm your opponent.
Yes.
Because I think this actually works best with 2 players, strangely enough. Yeah, I think so, because it's one of these things where in a 2-player game, there's a bit of a trade-off. You're only having to worry about one other player, which I think simplifies that aspect of the game as far as what to take, what to avoid. But in a 2-player game, you have 2 pies of your own, which I think creates a nice little challenge that you're not going to get in another game, where you're just focusing on one pie, and then and that makes it pretty easy, I think. I think the challenge with the 2 pies is greater than any sort of other challenge that the game might provide in a 3 or 4-player game, because you have to keep your eye on like the patterns and the flavors twice.
Yeah.
Which is surprisingly difficult. Like, if you watch our gameplay, my first pie was beautiful. It was exactly what it should have been to get maximum points. My second pie was a mess because I was then kind of left with whatever was left over, and what he left me with, basically, because, again, it's one of that...
Because I'm a hungry boy.
Yeah, it's that part of the game. You're...
Yeah, there's an interesting game within a game about, you're in your mind thinking, when do I start my second pie? There are some rules of placement, and in that, you need to put slices down, that they have to be adjacent to a previously placed, slice, but then also when you start your second pie is entirely up to you. And then once you start that second one, you still have to follow those adjacency rules. So, yeah, there's definitely some nifty strategies going on that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a game that is seemingly so simple. So in a 3 or 4-player game, you're just going to kind of go with the flow. What's available, what's best for you is generally what you're going to take. In 2 players, you're going to have the opportunity to be like, you're going to look at your opponent's pie and be like, he really wants that lime piece with the star pattern on top. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
It's going to be harder to do in a 3 or 4-player game, so that adds some more depth. The game is surprisingly deep at 2 players.
Yeah, I do. To the game's credit and the designer's credit, they did do a good job of designing the game so that it works for every player count.
Yeah.
Like with a 3-player game, there's only 3 pies out there. You're removing the pieces that have these darker crusts, which I think is nice. It's it's not just like a random selection of pieces that are removed from the game. It's specific so that the game can be designed make a nice even experience in a 3-player game.
Yeah.
But I like that. In a 4-player game, obviously everything's out there. Every player's supposed to be making one pie. But obviously the pieces were all designed intentionally, I think, as far as what is available. So I like that. Yeah,
everyone has their secret objective too. You're trying to go for this one kind of pie, and it gets you 1 extra point for each slice of it you have at the end of the game. So that can sometimes mess you up too, because if you don't think about that enough, or if you think about it if you think about it too much or too little, it can really trip you up. Again, they're just little things to make.
Well,
I feel like the little things like that help make this game appealing to both adults and younger audiences.
Here's the thing. Yeah, definitely good for kids. I think these don't work. I think if I have a problem with the game, if this game has a problem, it's these.
The delicious cards,
the perfect piece cards, yeah.
Yeah, delicious perfect pieces?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
Well, here's the thing. Everyone gets one of these, but every game you are going to have a recipe.
Yeah.
So in our game that we played on our channel, we lucked out because every flavor was relevant. In a game, say, where you have points for blueberry and kiwi, if one player happens to have a blueberry or kiwi perfect piece, the other player doesn't, suddenly they're getting double rewards for that flavor, whereas the other person isn't.
I mean, you're right. At the end of the day, those games designed to be like, it takes about 15 minutes to play this. So, like...
Yeah.
It's kind of a game meant to be played a lot and not taken too seriously. But yes, you're right. It doesn't it leaves a sour taste in your mouth when it should leave a sweet.
I think there are other ways this could have been done. They could have incorporated this without making it so that a player randomly will be at an advantage or disadvantage.
You want to know what my big issue with the game is?
Go ahead.
Where's the pumpkin? No, I'm kidding. That's not a legitimate complaint. Though I would like to see an expansion, the pumpkin expansion, or perhaps just
coming this autumn. But yeah, no, I think this is a visually very attractive game.
Yeah,
there's not a lot going on, but it nails what it needs to. The pie basically. I like that the pie, the box is a pie box. It looks good when you put everything inside it. Yeah, I think it's. And it makes you want to eat pie.
I really like how the game looks.
Yeah.
Would I put shards of dark chocolate and icing on, well, not shards of icing, but also icing on a pie? No, I wouldn't. Though the icing idea is kind of genius. I think I went into that in the gameplay, and I might be stealing it. So conceptually and thematically, it might not make that much sense, but you're right. I do love the way the pie slices look. They're surprisingly detailed. They look like the fruits they're supposed to be portraying.
Shall we wrap it up? Give it a score?
Yeah, there's not much else to say about this one. If you haven't seen this before, we have different scoring scales, but you'll get the gist of it when we give our scores. D does star ratings, I do letter grades. So D, your final thoughts on Piece of Pie.
I when it comes to like Azul and Sagrada, I like but don't love those games. I think I'm kind of in a similar sort of space with Piece of Pie here. It's a fun little diversion. I don't think it's super memorable, but it does more or less what it sets out to do. It's very easy to learn, very family friendly, plays very quickly. So I think you could do a lot worse in about 15 minutes than this. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5.
I think it's a good looking game. I think we've both said already, it's appealing to a wide variety of ages. It plays best with 2 players. I think at 2 players, it actually has a surprising amount of depth, and enough depth there that a lot of gamers will get something out of it. I do think it's a little limited, inevitably, because of who it's for, it's a little limited in scope. So there's only so much enjoyment for me, personally, that I can get out of it. Yeah, in its own space, like in its own category of drafting, puzzle kind of games, I would say it's probably like a B, or it's like average, maybe a little below average, but because it's so enjoyable and it doesn't demand that much of its player, I think it's fair to be put in that general grade range, B-, B. So that's where I'm going to go with it.
All right. Pretty close to it, though.
Yeah.
Kind of in agreement. So that's our review of Piece of Pie. Thank you for watching this video, if you're still here. Give us a thumbs up if you like this. You can leave us any comments, thoughts you have down below. We'll love to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet for more videos like this every week. And you can, of course, hit the notification bell as well if you want to get the instant notifications for when our videos are out. Social media is down below in the description, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you want to follow us on those. And come back Friday, where we'll be doing...
Or around Friday.
Friday-ish.
Yes.
Sometime this weekend, hopefully. We will have our next gameplay up. It's a bit of a sequel.
What are you hitting? What are you hinting at?
You'll see.
All right.
But until then, thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye. See you next time.